And with all of that said, let's meet both of the presenters. So, like I said, my name is Colin Contrary. I'm the head of content at Embrace. I am definitely the non-technical presenter of this webinar. And for the technical aspect of this webinar, that is going to be Joaquin. So, Joaquin, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Joaquin Diaz. I'm part of the Web RAM team here at Embrace, and I'm really excited to show you all the features that we've been building these past few months.
That's right. And we have built a lot. We have a ton to cover. So, let's get after it. So, this is going to be our agenda. So I'm going to start by giving you a little context into what we refer to as this concept of a user-focused approach to observability. That is what we build in our platform. That is what we are here to share with you. It's our approach to understanding where technical performance actually impacts user engagement and business outcomes. Then we're going to have three different demos. So first of all, we are going to demo what you get when you do a basic bare bones integration of our Embrace Web SDK. So we will show you the data you get in the user timelines, which is one of the core features of the Embrace platform. We'll show you also some aggregates you get with, again, just an out of the box integration, and those include Core Web Vitals metrics and also page load insights. Then in another demo, we're going to show how you can get additional context with some manual instrumentation. And so we will demonstrate that by showing how you can add logs and spans, and then see how that data shows up in user timelines, as well as how you can then view new aggregate pages based on this custom instrumentation. And we'll demo that by showing our error logs page and our traces page. And then the third demo we are going to show is how you can monitor your app more holistically. So we will show, if you want to understand where regressions are happening release over release, we'll show you our release health functionality. And then we'll also show how you can create custom measurements that are important to your business. We'll show how you can create widgets, build dashboards, as well as create alerts on this data, and then also forward this data to other observability platforms. If you'd like to look at your web data alongside the corresponding backend data for full end-to-end visibility. So we've got a lot to cover, and let's get after it. So first of all, Embrace offers user-focused observability. And what do we mean by that? So first of all, we're here to talk about the Embrace Web RUM product, but Embrace also provides mobile RUM. So any way your customers interact with your software, Embrace supports. So Embrace offers SDKs both for web apps and also mobile apps across all the different platforms. They are open source. They are built on open telemetry. So that means you can use our SDKs. You can instantly forward all of the telemetry to any OTel collector or OTel compatible backend if you'd like to look at the data yourself, play around with it, etc. And the SDKs also will send the data to the Embrace backend where we will process the data, enrich the data, and provide better insights into that data. And that's how we create sessions, aggregations, and all of the value that the Embrace dashboard provides. And so that might be similar to other products we've used. So I'd like to dive a little bit more into like what makes Embrace user focused. So if you're familiar with error monitoring tools or crash reporting tools or logging tools, you're accustomed to collecting individual issue types of data. Likewise, if you come from a back-end monitoring perspective, you're familiar with monitoring API endpoints, individual service calls, thinking about things in terms of transactions. Did the transaction succeed? Well, when you're looking at user-facing software, so people using your website or your mobile app, it's more helpful to analyze data in this concept of sessions. And so a session is anytime a user launches your mobile app, or in this case, loads your website, what are all the things they do as they navigate your website, for example? Do they, right click, open a product image in a new tab, and then go learn about the product there, and then click back to the first tab and do more research before they want to add one to a cart and then make a purchase? Having all of that context, that chronology of how users interact with your website is really helpful when issues happen or you have performance regressions to go back and understand, okay, where did we lose users? What part of our software did they find frustrating enough to either cancel a purchase or abandon their experience? So Embrace provides full session timelines for every single user using your website. In addition to that, like I mentioned before, we're talking about clicking and opening things in tabs and coming back. all of these different interactions your users take in your website across time, across multiple days, however it is, Embrace will stitch those together such that you can navigate the entirety of how users interact with your website. So that means if an issue occurred in a previous session where maybe some kind of app state got messed up, that when they came back to your website, it caused a broken experience, you can easily trace where it originated. And the other great thing is you're getting both the technical events and all the user behavior put together for you. You don't need to manually query this data across multiple products, like do a bunch of log search and stitching that together with networking. Embrace will connect all of this data for you and present it to you in an easy to digest visualization. So the next thing is you're not going to want to spend all day every day looking at the full context of user sessions because that doesn't help you efficiently prioritize issues across your user base. You want to look at aggregates. And one of the strengths of the Embrace product that again ties directly to this user-focused approach to observability is every time you aggregate data above that individual user experience level, it connects back to that actual user experience. So if it's networking, if it's performance traces, if it's error logs, if it's core web vitals, any sort of measurable signal that happens to a user, if we are analyzing it at an aggregate level, you can easily see which users are impacted when a regression happens. And you can also click and connect directly to those sessions. So you can first prioritize based on the impact, like how many and which users are affected. And then you dive directly to the full context of the session to actually troubleshoot it more efficiently. And the third piece of Embrace is the flexibility of our platform. So we collect all kinds of telemetry. We obviously present it to you in the session view, but you can create custom measurements that are unique to your business. So the things that you care about, you can create metrics, you can create widgets, you can build out dashboards for this. You can set up alerting for it, and you can also forward this data to your other observability platforms. If you'd like to look at your web RUM data alongside your backend data, Embrace empowers that with the flexible approach to how we collect, store, process, and enable you to use your data. So that way you get end-to-end visibility without sacrificing the rich user-focused context that our platform provides. So that was a lot. I have covered conceptually a lot of what makes Embrace unique and in terms of our approach to this user-focused approach to observability. But now let's see it in action. And so for that, I'm going to hand it over to Joaquin to start our first demo where he is going to demonstrate how easily you can integrate the Embrace Web SDK in a few lines of code, and then take a look at all the data that gets you with that quick integration. So I will stop sharing and I will let you take over, Joaquin.
Thanks, Colin. Let me share my screen. Cool. Can you all see the OpenTelemetry app? Amazing. So
Yep,
let's
I
start
see it.
by sharing the app that we're going to use to instrument during this presentation. So this is the OpenTelemetry demo app. Some of you may already know it because this is what the community built to demonstrate the power of OpenTelemetry. This is your classic e-commerce application where you see a list of products that you can click on to get to a details page where you can add them to a cart, and then you can place an order using a checkout form. Amazing. So the first thing you want to do, you want to create you want to register at Embrace, and then here on the apps list, you want to create a project. To create a project, you set a name. Let's call it also shop. We set the platform, and then we hit continue. On this page, what we are going to get a set of instructions to install the Embrace SDK. First of all, you have to install it using npm or yarn. That's the usual way. And then you have to init it using the init function here. So the most important piece of it is remembering to use the app ID provided by the onboarding flow. Jumping back into the code, the hotel demo application is a Next.js application. So we want to make sure that we call our init function as soon as possible, but also be sure that you're not calling it on a backend since the Embrace SDK only works on the client side. So for this case, I'm calling the init function here on my app file. I'm making sure that it's not on the backend by checking window being defined. And I say my app ID, my app version. We are also going to set up the navigation instrumentation so we can get richer data about our users using the sessions. Next, we are going to hook the the Next.js router to the navigation instrumentation so we can keep track on the current route for the user. Once you've done that, you want to build your application and start sending some sessions. Since it takes some time for sessions to get to the dashboard, I already prepared some sessions beforehand. So this is a sample app where we have a list of sessions. This is the sessions list page where you see all the sessions coming from your users, and you also see stitch sessions. These are the sessions that are stitched together when they happen around the same time for the same device. We can click on one of the sessions here to get into the user timeline page. First of all, on the header, we see again the stitch header, the stitch session header, where we can click on other sessions that are stitched together. Next, we have the horizontal timeline. This is an overview of everything that happened during that session. There are some sections that are disabled because we don't have instrumentation for this yet. Then we do have some sections that are enabled that we can click to expand. For example, we can see all the network calls being made in the same session. We can see all the paths that the user took to navigate through the session. So for example, the home page, the product details page, and the cart page. We can click on Web Vitals to see all the different events that were reported, sorted by the score. And then lastly, we can click on others to see all the clicks that the user did during the session. Next, we are going to go to the panel on the right where we get session information. This is really useful to understand everything, like to understand what session properties you have for this session. For example, you can see the location of the user, you can see the browser, you can see the resolution and more data. And then the main section of this page is a timeline where we get a list of roles on everything that happened during that session ordered by date. So the first thing that we get is the page load row that shows us the total size of the page that the user loaded, the amount of time that they have to wait, and the LCB core web vital value. We can expand this row to see more information. We can see the element that is attached to the core web vital, and then we can also see a list of resources that the user loaded during the session. Each one of them, you can see the transfer size, the time where it started, and the duration of the load. Next, you have other roles, like for example, the network role. So at this moment in the session, the user or your application did a few network requests, and these are grouped by domain. So you can see here that we made an API call to API card, API products, and API currency. You can see here the duration of each API call. Another interesting role that we see is the core web vital role, where you can see a single core web vital being reported. In this case, we have the CLS web vital, and we get here the value and the delta and all the attribution related to that web vital. Next, we can see unhandled exceptions that I added just as an example for this session, where we can see, for example, an ad that failed to load. So in this session, we see when it happened, we see the stack trace, so we can find out where the issue happened and work around it. And lastly, we have a bunch of clicks that I did during the session. So for example, when I added something to the cart, I have a click here and I have the element that is attributed to. So as we can see, the session has a lot of context about what happened during the time the user was going through your website. But as you get more users, it's really hard to go through all the sessions. So what you want to do is you want to go on one of the pages that we have, where we show aggregations about the user experience from your page. So for example, we can go to the page loads insights page, where we have, first of all, a time series where we show the page load time, the P95 page load time for your page over time. So here, for example, we can see that a user took around 400 milliseconds to load. This seems really low because this is a local host application. So eventually, once you deploy this, you'll see like real numbers. On the right side of that, we have a card where we have information about the transfer size of the page. First, we get the P95 transfer size. This is most likely the size that users get when they load the page for the first time. And we have then the average sample size. This is most likely affected by the cache hit ratio. That means that as users get to cache some of your resources, the total sample size goes down. Next, we have a bar chart where we show each of the resource types separated, and you can see for each one of them the cache hit ratio. In this example, we can see how fonts are never cached, so that means there is some opportunity for improvements there, where you can start caching more your fonts, so to make sure that users are not downloading that resource every time. Once you see a problem either on the cache size or on the page load time, you can go to the table down below here, where you can get a list of resources that your users are loading. We have multiple columns that are really helpful for you. For example, we have the average sample size for each resource. We have the load time for each resource, whether the resource was blocked in the render or not, the cache hit ratio, and the resource type. You can order this table by each one of the columns. So for example, if you want to know which resource is taking longer to load, you can sort by load time. We see here that this CSS file is taking most of the time to load and is a blocking resource. So you can either work on making it smaller or making sure that your cache hit ratio is as high as possible. So that is page level insights. Now we are going to move into the Core Web Vitals page, where we get aggregations related to each of the Core Web Vitals. So in this case, we have LCP, CLS, and INP. And we show a distribution of each of the scoring for each Core Web Vital. So for example, for CLS, we see that 60% of our users are getting a poor score, and then 84% of them are getting a good score. Once you want to know more about why your users are getting a bad score, you can go to the table below, where you get a list of measurements of Core Web Vitals grouped by the URL where they happen. We can see on the table that the P75 value for CLS is a bad score here for this URL. So we can click this to get to the Core Web Vital details page. So in this occasion, we can see the CLS Core Web Vital. Again, we get the distribution for this, and we can see how it changes over time. And then we have another table where, in this case, we have each instance of the Core Web Vital being reported by the SDK. And we can see, for example, this is the target that where this Core Web Vital is attributed to. And we can click on this row to go back to the timeline, where we can see more information and context around what happened because of that Core Web Vital. Like in this case is here. We can see what happened before or after, and the what the user did after that. Cool. So we saw a lot of things. So this is the end of the first section of the demo. We're going to go back to Colin. He's going to do a small recap and then open up the floor for questions. So back to you, Colin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joaquin. So yeah, even in just that first demo, Joaquin just did a great job demonstrating just how much value you get with a bare bones integration with the SDK. So to clarify, to reiterate what Joaquin did, he downloaded the SDK, just emitted it, obviously put the app ID so that you could send the data to Embrace, and then just set up global navigation so that you could see which pages people are using on your website. And once you do that, you get the full context of how users use it in the user timeline. So we saw, how long does it take the page to load? Where exactly within the session are Core Web Vitals metrics being triggered? Where are users clicking? Which resources are they downloading? Which network calls are firing? How big are the payloads? Are they successful? Are they failing? Are there unhandled exceptions? And then Joaquin showed some of these aggregates you get from this bare bones integration, right? So we show you all those insights about page load so that globally you can see where you have resources that could be optimized or minified, or you could increase caching to increase your cache hit ratio such that users aren't re-downloading things again and again. And then he showed Core Web Vitals. So we'll show you these exact measurements, which resources are triggering them, and then they all connect directly to the user experience where they're happening so that you can even pinpoint exactly where users are downloading them so that you can improve them. So that was a ton of material we showed. We'd like to stop here just for a few minutes to answer any questions about that first part of the demo. So if you have any questions, use the Q&A section. We already have a couple coming in. So I will go through these, and then once we're finished with questions, we will continue with the demo. So we have a question here, Joaquin, and I think it's coming from when you said the Hotel demo is a Next.js app. So we have one question here. It says, which JavaScript frameworks does Embrace support?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we like the Embrace SDK is not built on top of any framework. It's just plain TypeScript, so it works on any framework as you need it. What we do provide is a few instrumentation that is specific to each framework. Like for example, right now we have instrumentation for React Routing library to hook up navigation. And in the future, we plan to keep adding more instrumentation specific to each framework as is requested by the community or needed.
Okay, awesome. So yes, if you use it, Embrace supports it. The second question we have so far is, I think this is because we showed the networking calls in the session. It says, how does Embrace capture network calls?
Cool. So what we do is we hook up into the fetch and HR functions of the browser to create spans that we send to the network to the Embrace dashboard to show them. But the cool part about them is that we actually didn't write that code. We are since the Embrace ACK is built on top of open telemetry, we are able to use community provided instrumentation such as the network instrumentation. So we actually use that coming from the community, and it's really helpful for us. Another thing that we may also do is like once we use this instrumentation, if we find places where we can improve them, and there is a chance we will always try to push that back to the community, like contribute back to the open source in a PR, for example. So yeah, this is a great advantage of being built on top of OpenTelemetry is that, having that community support where we can build on top of each other.
Nice. Yeah, I agree, Joaquin. And with that, that is all the questions we have so far. So let's go into the second part of the demo. So in this part, Joaquin is going to show how you can add some manual instrumentation. We'll show an example of adding a log and a span, and then how you can view that data in user timeline, as well as look at aggregate pages. So aggregate data for logs and spans. And so with that, I'll let you take it away, Joaquin.
Yeah, cool. So just a quick reminder, like the app that we are doing like, the app that we're using for this demo is the OpenTelemetry demo app, which is an e-commerce app. So what you want to do is your manual instrumentation, you want to make sure that it's tied to your main business flow. So in this case, we will add a log when the user, for example, adds an item to the cart. We will add another log when the user lands on this checkout form, and then we will create a span that is wrapping the API call to create a new to place an order. So let's go back to the code for a little bit. In this case, we have the product details component when this is the on app item function. So on this function, we are going to call log.message. We need a message for the log. We set up a log level, in this case info, and then we can set up a set of attributes that we want to use later for either filtering or grouping these logs. And then going back to the card details page, this is the checkout form. We will add a log when the user lands on this page. Again, we set a message, we set the log level, and we also set a set of attributes that we can use later. And lastly, what we're going to do, we're going to create a span when the checkout process starts, and then we're going to end that span after the API call. So once that is all done, you can go generate a few sessions. I have already created some here. Where I can see, for example, this one, going back to the timeline, we see now these sections are enabled. So that means we have telemetry coming. So for example, we see here a few logs when someone added an item to the cart. And then we also have the root span section. On this section, we also show all the the spans that happen. This one. So going back to the main timeline, we can scroll down to find one of the logs. Here we have a log. We can click on it to expand it, and we will see all the properties that were attached to that log. In this case, the product ID and the quantity. If we keep scrolling down, Uh, we will find here the span that we added. We can see in this case, for this example, this is an error span. That means that something most likely went wrong during the checkout process. We can click on this to expand to see all the attributes attached to it. And then we can see by looking at the context of this span that there is an network request that failed. So most likely the reason that the span failed is because there was an error on the network. Again, you don't want to be looking at timelines all the time. The easiest way is to be looking at aggregations. So we're going to start by seeing the logs page here. So in the logs page, we have two sections. The first one is the aggregated section, where we group all the logs together by the message. So we can see here two rows, one for the card detail loaded and one for item added to cart messages. And then we got metrics around each of the logs. So for example, the versions, where they happen, the number of devices, the number of times, and the number of affected users. If we move to the raw section of the logs, we get a stream of logs that are happening in your SDK. And then in this case, the most likely scenario is that you get a lot of logs going on here. So what you may want to do is you want to filter them. You can easily filter them by using the filter builder here. You click here and you can filter by a lot of dimensions. So for example, you want to see all the logs coming from a specific browser. So you can use the browser name filter and then filter by, in this case, Chrome. You apply these filters and then you'll see all the list of logs now are being filtered by this. Another cool filter that you can use is the property filter. Remember the properties that you attached to the log earlier. So you see, for example, we have the product ID property. You can click here and filter by a specific product ID that was added to the card. So for example, I want to see all the logs attached to this product ID. Can apply my filters and I get the log. So that is for logs. Now we're going to
Joaquin,
move.
before we go to spans, can you go back to the aggregated view really quick?
Yeah,
Because you touched on this, but I do just want to reiterate for the audience the power of Embrace being a user-focused approach. So Joaquin mentioned if you see these columns, you can see the event count, so how many times these logs fire. You can see how many unique devices they happen on, but also there's that users column. And so frequently, if you've been, debugging applications at scale, you can get, bot behavior or you can get errors that fire a tremendous amount of time, but for very few users. So trying to prioritize issues just on raw counts of when they fire doesn't necessarily equate to the true user and business impact. So because Embrace collects all the sessions, all the data for every user, we let you prioritize along that aspect, which is users. So how many actual users are impacted? So if you want to prioritize based on that pillar, Embrace provides that. So sorry, Joaquin, just wanted to chime in a little bit there about because that's one of the key points of value about having this user-focused approach as opposed to just collecting the events without that connection.
yeah. No, that's a great point. Like, you always have to be sure that you are prioritizing your work on the right way. Like, there's also so much things to do all the time, so you don't want to spend time fixing something that is only like affecting some really low number of users. So going back again, the other thing that I wanted to show you is the traces page. In this page, we see all the spans that you created on the SDK. We started with a few charts here, so we see how many times the span is being called. We see the spans that has more errors, and then lastly we have the P50 duration of each of the spans. On this table, we group all the spans by span name, and then you can see metrics for each of the spans. So, for example, the error rate, the count, that's the number of times that it was created, and then all the different percentiles for the duration. You can always click on this row to see more details about the span. So in this case, this is the checkout process span. We can see the duration over time, and then we can see how many or what's the success percentage for this span, the error percentage, and the abandon percentage. We also see here that is a section called slows instances. This is something pretty cool that we have for spans. So how your users are not going to wait forever for something to happen. So you want to track these spans that are slow. So for example, for each of the spans, you can set a slowness threshold. And by enabling this, you can say, for example, I don't want my checkout process to be longer than 1,500 milliseconds. So you can set that value here. And after now, every new span that takes longer than that, it will be marked as a slow span. You can then use that to filter for log spans that are slow, or you can also see here like the slowest spans. So on this table, what we have is each time that the span was created, so each of the span instances, we can click on the row to expand it, and we will see a preview of the span tree. We can click here to see more details, and we get to this page. So this page will show you all the span events and children's spans that are attached to the span. In this case, just for the demo, it's a really simple span. And as always, you see the span detailed attributes and everything that is attached to it. And you can go back to that session timeline where the span happened to get more information and more context around this span. So here. Again, this what we did here is we added a bunch of manual instrumentation to get more information around our critical business path. And this is the end of the second section of the demo. As we did before, Colin is going to do a small recap, and then we will answer any questions that are. So back to you, Colin.
Thanks, Joaquin. Oh, Joaquin, sorry, I might have missed it. Did you cover slow spans?
Yes.
Oh, we did. Okay, sorry. I might have missed it
Yeah.
'cause we had a question come in that distracted me for a second. So yes, thank you so much, Joaquin, for that second part. And like Joaquin said, that was just a simple example of adding a couple logs and a span, and then getting that aggregate picture of that behavior. You can see where these logs are happening to your users, the counts, the devices. You can drill in, connect them directly to timelines. And then for spans, like Joaquin showed with slow spans, you can both see when they're failing, but also when they're slow. And you can also completely customize what slow means to your application. So you might know over time when things are too slow, such that users start abandoning. Embrace can provide an example starting point, but over time you can then adjust that such that you are alerted and you have visibility into exactly what slow means to you. And so, with that out of the way, we do have a few questions. So, I'd like to start with one I'll answer that came in at the end. Um, the question was, does Embrace do auto discovery of services, and how is this managed in a cloud service? I just want to answer this because in case there's confusion, so Embrace only does the user-facing side of observability. So we do observability for websites and mobile apps and web apps. If you're using a JavaScript framework to create, a single-page app, things like that. So our software runs on the client device. We actually don't do back-end observability or infrastructure monitoring or that kind of thing. So if that's what that question is about, hopefully that clarifies. If you have another way, you can re-ask it, and we'll get to it later. Um, Another question we had is, I think this is when you were showing filtering, Joaquin. The question is, what are all the ways that you can filter the data that's in the Embrace dashboard?
Yeah, that's really important because you don't want to be looking at all the data all the time. So that you want to focus on a specific cohort of users. So first of all, you can always filter by date. So if you want to see, for example, what's going on today on your application, you can do that. Then you can also filter by app version. So for example, you just see the release, you want to see how that release is going. You can filter by the app version or multiple app versions. And then lastly, you can filter by like a large number of dimensions. It really depends on where you are. So for example, if you are looking at network requests, you can filter by path, domain, or method. If you are on the spans page, you can filter by the outcome, like that being failure, successful, abandoned, slow. If you're on sessions, you can filter by most of these dimensions. Like you can see sessions that if they have a log, if they have a specific property, if they have a session, if it was a cold start. So yeah, the answer is there are many, many filters and many ways of filtering. But yeah, it's really important to understand them so you get the most of your time at Embrace.
Nice, thank you. And we have one other question. It says you showed logs and spans. Is there anything else that you can manually instrument in Embrace?
Yeah, there are many things that you can do. So, for example, one way of knowing more information about the session is adding breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs is like a log, similar but more lightweighted. So, for example, you can on a session you can start by saying, so the user did this, the user did the other thing. So you can tag your sessions or things that are happening through your sessions using breadcrumbs. Another thing you can do is use custom properties. So, for example, you want to know you are running an A/B test and you want to only see sessions from like half of the test, for example, the A part of the test. So you can add a custom attribute to a session and then you can filter by that custom attribute. I'm sure I'm missing some way of instrumenting, so like everything is in the documentation. So hopefully that will get better there.
Are you telling people to read the
Mm.
docs, Joaquin? Is that what we're
Yeah.
doing? All right, awesome. That's actually all the questions we have so far. So we've just wrapped up part 2 of the demo, and now we'd like to start the third and final part of the demo. So we've showed what you get, bare bones integration of the SDK. We've shown how you can enrich timelines and get access to other out-of-the-box Embrace provided aggregate pages with error logs and spans. Now we want to move the demo to show how you can create custom measurements that are unique to your business KPIs and what's unique about your app. So we are going to now demonstrate how you can create. Well, first we're going to demonstrate if you want to monitor the health of your app, holistically over releases. We'll show how Embrace provides that view. And then we'll show how you can create your own widgets and then build your own dashboards to measure what's unique about your app. And we'll show the flexibility that the Embrace platform provides in terms of combining different telemetry types and visualizations to really build out what's important to you. And then we'll close by showing how you can connect this data to other observability platforms such that you can have your web app data, or if you use Embrace for a mobile app, your mobile data alongside your backend data, your infrastructure data, such that you can then get that end-to-end picture of if something's happening on the back end, is it affecting downstream on the client, or is something only happening on the client? Get that data in one central place. So that's what we're going to do in the third part of the demo. And I will hand it over to you, Joaquin, to get us started.
Yeah. Thank you, Colin. All right. Sharing my screen again. Cool. So first, we're going to start with the release health page. So this is the Embrace's opinionated take on understanding like what's going on between your releases. So let's imagine that you instrumented your application and you release it to production, and you start seeing an unhandled exception. So on your next release, you want to handle that exception and make sure that it's not longer happening for your users. So something that you can do here, you can click on compare. Let me zoom a little bit. You can select two versions. So for example, I have this version here and this second version here, and you can compare them together. We also show the session volume for each of the versions in case you want to make sure that they have similar volume, so you can compare apples to apples and not like really low number of sessions to a large number of sessions. You can click on apply here, and you will get the total number of affected users and total number of affected sessions compared to the group that you selected. And then on the issues list, you get by each issue type, you get information around what's going on and like what changed over each of the releases. If we expand on the exceptions list, we can see here, for example, this is the error that I was hoping to start handling. So I had an error on the checkout flow that wasn't handled. So that means probably a bad user experience because something was breaking on the page, like the white screen that you see on React was everything blows up. So I wanted to handle that. What I did is instead of having that being unhandled, I wrap it on a try catch. And instead of just throwing the exception, I'm showing an error log so I can keep monitoring all the errors that are happening during my checkout flow, but without having an unhandled exception. So I can see here how the exception in group B is 0% of affected users and is like 10% down. And then I can see how the error log that I added is now affected around 10% of users, and it's showing up what I added to try to catch this exception. So this is, again, Embrace opinionated take on this. You may want to monitor different things of your application in different ways. So what we do have is a way of creating your own dashboards. To do that, we can go to the dashboard sections here, and we can create a dashboard. So this is what I have here. In dashboards, you can add widgets as you want. So I will create a new widget just to show you. So you will set up a widget name, let's say like error count, since I was just trying out that. So let's say I do a new release, I want to see like how many error counts I have, error logs count, sorry. You have different type of visualizations you can see on a table, on a line chart, a bar chart, or pie chart. And then what you can do is you want to select your source for this metric. So for example, I want to see logs, so I will select login. And then you want to select the metric that you want to use. In this case, I want to count logs, so I will select this one. I can already see the time series being populated here, but I also want to make sure that I am only looking at error logs. So I will use the type filter to set up the filter for error logs. Here, I hit apply. And now I have a widget that shows me all the error logs over time on my application. Let's save it. Cool. So it's going to be at the end. This is the widget that I just created. In this case, I did prepare a few widgets that I wanted to share with you that I think are helpful for you to understand like how powerful this tool is and like all the things that you can do with querying your own data. So, for example, the first widget that I created here is a traffic by person widget. So you can see, for example, the amount of users using your application, then I did a release, and then the new application, the new version starts coming up. So I have how many users were using each of the versions. In here, I have a table with the same data, but just the totals, so I can just, in a glance, see how many users are using the app. Later, I have a pie chart where I am grouping my users by a dimension. In this case, I'm using browser. So I use headless Chrome to generate all these sessions automatically. So this is why most of my users are using headless Chrome. And then lastly, I have another visualization type. In this case, is the pie chart where I am grouping where are my users ending their sessions. In this case, most of them are ending the session on the current page, then some of them on the product details page. Another useful widget that I created is the exceptions by message, where I can see, for example, this exception was going on here, where I can see the checkout flow failing. That was the unhandled exception that I was trying to fix. And I can see here how after my fix, it's no longer happening, and I have another exceptions. So that's helpful for any kind of application. But then if you want to see metrics related to your business KPIs, in our case, the checkout flow, I have, for example, here all the fail spans related to checkout, and I can see at the same times exceptions or error happening. So I can try to relay this information as you want to see why your checkout flow is failing, and if you see a spike on either exceptions or log errors, that might explain it. Also, you may want to see how a new product is doing. So, for example, on the log that we added earlier, where we were adding the product ID as an attribute, I have this widget where I'm showing how many times a product was added to the cart, grouped by product ID. Another cool thing that you can add is this is all about the checkout flow. So you can see how many of those spans are being abandoned, how many of them are erroring out, or how many of them are successful. So the cool thing about this is that this doesn't have to just stay an Embrace. As Colin was saying, we can export this information to another observability platforms where you can centralize all your data. So, for example, on this widget, you can click on Create Custom Metric. And this will take you to the custom metric flow. I already created so where you can create a new custom metric. You can add more filters if you want. You can add a different grouping. And then if you click next, you can select the data destination where this custom metric is being sent to. So for example, I'm using Grafana Cloud, so I will select Grafana Cloud, and then I can select the time period for this metric. I'm sorry, zoom out for a little bit. Once you create this, it will start to be sent to Grafana. So what I did is I already sent a couple of metrics, so we can see here at Grafana. So I was talking about, for example, we have exceptions by message here. We have the total traffic on your application by app ID, sorry, by app version. And then we have, yeah, the same value, but on a time series where we see the traffic. And then I have all my business related KPIs. So for example, how many times a checkout flow is fading. And then we can, for example, then combine this with your transactions and see, if there is an API call failure or if something is going on one of your other systems, you can try to understand what's going on there. And then here we can see the logs where I added the product ID attribute. And we have this time series on how many times the product was added to the cart. Another thing that we can also export to another observability tools is network spans. So it's what we call network span forwarding. So I also set that up, and I have an example here to show you. So in this case, I have an span that is being created by my front-end application, like my Next.js application. And I have here, so the Next.js application did an API request to API products. And then I can follow that trace through all my system. Like these are all my services that are handling this API call. So I can see, for example, that it ends up here, and I can try to understand where are my bottlenecks, like which services is taking longer to respond. And of course, for each of the spans, I have all the like related attributes. Cool. So that's the end of the last section of the demo. We saw how you can analyze your data and Embrace. You can create your own custom widgets or dashboards, or you can use the release health section to do that. But yeah, it was a lot. So again, back to Colin for a small recap and the last round of questions.
Yeah, thank you, Joaquin. Well, we had a follow-up question here that I think is very appropriate based on what you just showed, Joaquin. And
Mhm.
their answer was any plans to get to back-end observability and metrics just to complete the full customer journey of requests? Feels front-end observability is one part of monitoring. And it's a really great question you ask. And so our focus is on observability through the lens of the user. So the software that your users are directly touching. So when they load your web app in the browser or when they launch it on a mobile app, all of that client facing software is what Embrace touches. And what Joaquin just demonstrated is we can collect the data there, enrich it, create interesting visualizations and workflows from it, but then we can connect it to all of the great backend observability tools that are already out there. And Joaquin showed some of the ones that we currently support. You can also get Embrace data just through, we have a metrics API. So if you have a platform that we don't currently support, you can still pull the Embrace data. But I would say we are expanding the number of supported platforms all the time. So depending what you're using for backend observability, we probably support it. And you can send that data there to view it alongside the great functionality of those tools. And what Joaquin just shared with network spans forwarding is the way that you get that end-to-end visibility for the requests. So you can collect your network requests as spans and Embrace. And we abide by the W3C trace parent specification. So we add that on there. So if your backend platform supports it, which all OTel compatible platforms do, then that's how you get that full end-to-end visibility. You can see the client trace, the client span, and then you can see where it connects to all of the back-end services. And that way you can easily see, is it the back-end problem? Is it a client problem? You can get that all in your platform of choice. So really great question, but we do not have plans to support backend. Our focus, our strength, our expertise is in observability through that lens of the user. So collecting telemetry, analyzing it where users are running the software. Another question we have, Joaquin, I'll hand this to you, is it says you mentioned alerts, but yeah, we did not show alerts. How do alerts work in Embrace?
Yeah, so you have two options. You can, I think it's better to show you. I'll share the screen again. So remember I was showing here, sorry, here. I was showing this widget. So as you are monitoring your own data here, you want to see, for example, I don't know, you want to get alerted when the traffic goes down to a number. So what you can do directly from here is create an alert. This will prefill some of the values of this form. So you want to select an alert type. In this case, it's the metric that you want to be alerted on. I selected session count. Then you want to, for example, say if my session count goes below, I don't know, 100 on the last 5 minutes, then it means that there is some issue, something is going wrong with my application because nobody's using it. And then you can set up who is going to be alerted by this. So you can, for example, email all the team members, email some members. Then you can set up Slack, so you get a Slack notification when something goes wrong. Or you can even set up webhooks, so you can hook it up into whatever tool I use for notifications, like for example, PagerDuty or whatever. So that is one way of creating alerts. You don't always need to come from a widget. You can just go to the alerts page and start creating alerts there. By clicking here, you fill up the form as I did, and then yeah, you can create an alert. Again, and since we are also sending data to another observability tools like Grafana, if all your alerts are in Grafana, you can also set that up later there.
And I don't think, Joaquin, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have time to even show them all the different ways that they can create alerts. There's a
Mm.
number of ways you can do it in a number of dimensions. If you want to create widgets and alerts based on counts, based on slowness, based on failures, based on affected user percentage, the flexibility of the Embrace platform is incredible. If you can dream a way to measure your website, Embrace can help. Um, we have time. Let's do one more question, then we'll wrap up. And this question will be a quick one. We have a question here. It says, is the Embrace team looking at AI capabilities like automated metrics analysis? And for that, what I will say is, first of all, we didn't get a chance to demonstrate the entire Embrace platform. This was more a kind of getting started. What are the first looks you get here? So there's a lot more to the platform we haven't showed, but also we are actively working on several amazing AI capabilities. So stay tuned. We will be launching those soon. So very awesome question, and can't wait to show you when they are ready. And with all of that said, let me share screen again, and let me just do a quick wrap up because we covered a lot. So we covered this concept of user-focused observability. That is Embrace's approach to it. We offer support for Web RUM and Mobile RUM, so you integrate our SDK either in your web app or in your mobile app. We collect the telemetry as users are using your application. We enrich it, and we provide aggregated analysis, visualizations, helpful troubleshooting workflows, alerts, you name it, you can access it. What did we show in this demo? We showed the Embrace Web SDK out of the box, like a few lines of code. You get every user session, you get networking, unhandled exceptions, you can get all your navigation, core web vitals, page load insights, all of that with a very simple SDK installation. We then covered how you can get more context by instrumenting spans and logs, and Joaquin mentioned there are other data types you can add, like breadcrumbs, for additional in-session context. We then covered aggregates. So Embrace provides several helpful out-of-the-box aggregate pages. So for example, Core Web Vitals, page loads, insights, error logs, traces. There are many more we did not have time to get to, such as, for example, networking. And all of these bubble up data from those individual user experiences into aggregate views, such that you can see impact, you can see how many users are affected, which app versions, you can prioritize issues before then connecting directly to the sessions they happened in to expedite troubleshooting. And the third is we covered how you can monitor issues across releases. So we showed our releases health page, and we also showed how you can create your own measurements, your own widgets, build your own dashboards. And Joaquin showed several helpful ways, spanning both just overall app usage, like traffic. You can get user counts of individual issue types, like logs, how many users are affected by them. You can combine telemetry types. So Joaquin showed a visual of putting an exception with a span. So if a span failed, is it correlated with an exception? Things like that. And then you can create alerts, and you can also forward this data. So if you want to view it within Embrace, create alerts there. You can also forward it to observability platforms to power SLOs or alerting or other workflows that you already have in place. So very powerful way that you can get that full end-to-end visibility based on whatever backend solution that you're using. And then in addition, obviously getting a lot of value out of the Embrace platform for monitoring the health of your app, troubleshooting issues, etc. So we covered a lot. I think we don't particularly have time for any more questions, but if there are any other questions, feel free to send them right now and I will answer them. But if not, I will move along to some of the wrap up, which is if you would like to learn more, go to our website, embrace.io. If you have questions about integrating, want to ask questions about how to do best practices, things like that, you can join our community Slack. So community.embrace.io. You can join there, ask anything. Our engineers are in there, our support people are in there, I'm in there. We can answer all your questions and help you get the most out of your web RUM and mobile RUM with Embrace. And if you'd like to look at the code, use it yourself, play with it, fork it, modify it, all of our SDKs, our web SDK and all of our mobile SDKs are completely open source. They're built on OpenTelemetry. You can download them, fork them, send data wherever you want to any OTel collector, OTel compatible endpoint. They are there. So go to our GitHub repo and you can access them, github.com/embrace-io.